What's up, y'all? Clayton here with Beyond Athletics. Today we are talking about why you are missing the boat on Olympic lifts. To understand this, we have to understand what we're talking about when we say Olympic lifts. When we refer to Olympic lifts, we mean the clean, the snatch, the jerk, or any of their derivatives. So that's the hang clean, the high pull, the push press, anything that accelerates a barbell with explosive hip, knee, and ankle extension. So coaches tend to use these lifts to train that explosive, what they call triple extension, right? So that's our extension at the hip, knee, and ankle. We want to train this because it's so important in sport to be able to explosively punch into the ground with your lower limb, because that's what makes us fast and explosive. Recently, there's been a transition away from Olympic lifts in the strength and conditioning community, leaning more towards other methods of training that explosive triple extension. So this is like your loaded jumps, your medicine ball throws, really ballistic and explosive movements. These are great, and they have a lower learning curve, so coaches like them because you can get athletes started on them quicker. You don't have to spend a long time in the teaching process. And also, they can produce similar and sometimes even greater peak power outputs, which we hear that as coaches and we're like, this is awesome. We want our athletes to have this high level of peak power, right? We want all of our athletes, who doesn't want their athlete to be very powerful? But there's a big drawback. We're missing a big portion of the benefit of Olympic lifts here. The portion that we're missing is the eccentric rate of force development that Olympic lifts offer. To understand why it's important that we're missing this, we got to understand first what eccentric rate of force development is. Eccentric rate of force development is how quickly athletes can decelerate load. So if we think about an athlete like a soccer player, for example, they're going to have to get up to speed, then decelerate and change direction very quickly. The speed at which they can slow down their momentum, they can stop all of these gravitational forces that are pushing in one direction, their whole inertia that's moving, the speed at which they can stop that to then redirect it is crucial. If you have an athlete with a lot of power, but no eccentric rate of force development, they won't be able to slow down or change direction or cut very effectively on the field. So eccentric rate of force development is the rate at which we can develop force to slow ourselves down. So let's think about this eccentric rate of force development in the context of our Olympic lifts. So if we think about a power clean, we're accelerating weight up against gravity. We reach that point where it starts to fall back down, and then we catch or stop the weight against the force of gravity, right? We're not letting that gravity beat us. We're not letting that weight drag us all the way back down to the floor. We're stopping that and standing up. Same thing with a snatch. With our split jerk, our push press, anything like that, we have a dip and a drive phase, where we're dipping down, we're allowing the weights to accelerate with gravity, then we're stopping and redirecting that force and driving them back up explosively. This stop and restart, this redirect, is the crucial part of the Olympic lifts that we are trying to train because it develops that eccentric rate of force development. If we look at head-to-head research studies where we compare the weighted jumps and the throws and the Olympic lifts, we do see that peak power is similar, right? We can learn to accelerate and explosively extend the knee, hip, and ankle joints with any of these movements. That's true. But Olympic lifts stand out alone far better in rate of force development than other lifts. This is likely largely due to the second half of those movements, the catch phase, the dip and drive phase, where we are stopping force. With a ballistic movement like a jump or a throw, we don't have any of that forced rapid deceleration against high levels of force. We're just extending. If that is all we're doing in our training, we're missing a boat big time on how we can develop athletes. That's not to say that the loaded jumps aren't good. In our programs here, we have both, right? We want our athletes to be powerful, but we also want them to be able to control that power. We want the rate of force development. You need to have both to have a truly effective athlete. And you might be thinking, okay, well, I train track athletes. I train shot putters, hammer throwers, sprinters. Like, they don't change direction, so I just want them to be powerful. But if we think about sprinting, we think about just the basic concept of running or moving in a straight line. One of the main components to how fast we can sprint is how well can our athletes tolerate short ground contact times? How well can they redirect force in each individual step to keep pushing forward? When we look at this, obviously the rate of force development is absolutely pivotal because they have less than 0.2 seconds on the ground per step, and they have to redirect this insanely high level of force to get going in the right direction or to keep it going in the right direction. So it doesn't matter what sport, if you have an athlete that you're training and you are eliminating Olympic lifts simply for the sake that they you can produce power to a similar degree with a jump or a throw, you're missing the boat big time. So no matter what kind of athletes you're training, what sports they're into, if you're going to be training them for any length of time, if you've got long-term athletic development in mind, make sure you're investing time to teach them the Olympic lifts, make sure they're doing them correctly, make sure they're getting the most benefit out of them, because there's a lot of good left on the table there.